Grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's economics lesson. My name is Mr. Berry. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Good day again, Grade 12. For today, our knowledge area will be focusing on economic pursuit. We're still doing revision for paper 1. By the end of the lesson, learners should be able to answer section A and B on their final examination. So this is what our assessment plan looks like. On paper 1, we are writing for 150 marks for 2 hours. So you have two main topics, which is your macroeconomic and your economic pursuit. Right, on previous lesson, we have discussed the macroeconomics. We've looked at the circular flow, business cycle, public sector, and the foreign exchange market. Now, our focus will be on the economic pursuit, where we are looking at your protectionism and free trade, economic growth and development, regional development, and your economic and social indicators. So you need to know by now, where do you find this concept on your paper 1? You know that on section A, it is a mixture of both macroeconomics and the economic pursuit. Then on section B, you have 3 questions that you need to answer, only 2 from. Right, so question 2, it will be your macroeconomics out of 40 marks. So if you are specializing and then you understand macroeconomics, you know that your game plan is to answer question 2 and 4, because 4 is a mixture again of macroeconomics and the economic pursuit. Then if you are specializing and you understand the economic pursuit more, then it means in section B, you are answering 3 and 4. Right, and then you have section C, where you have question 5. The focus is only on macroeconomics, where you need to know the 6 identified essay as per your examination guideline. And then also on question 6, there's only economic pursuit. There's about 7 essay questions that are identified. You need to know all 7 essays for you to answer question 6. If you are going to answer question 5, then the essays have been discussed. Today we're going to look at the essay questions that are possible for economic pursuit. But prior to that, let me remind you of the essay questions that you find in question number 5. So we had our priorities, and we said we have most possible to the least possible. Why are we doing that? If you don't get to essay number 6, but at least 4 of the essays you know and you understand them. Right, so essay 1, we had discussed in detail the international trade. And essay 2 was discussed in detail the reason for public sector failure, linking them with the problem of provisioning. Remember, the first one of international trade, it can be demand reasons or supply reasons, or it can be just discussed in detail international trade, meaning you can discuss both demand and supply reason. Essay number 2, we say, is that one of public sector failure, the reason for public sector failure, linking them to the problem of provisioning. There, your heading is your management failure, lack of motivation, your bureaucracy, politician, structural weakness. Those are the headings for reason for public sector failure. On essay number 3, we put your discussing markets. Those 4 markets that we have in the circular flow: product market, factor market, foreign exchange market, and your good market. Right, your good market or your financial market. Yes, we skip the financial market. So it's a financial market, factor market, product market, and foreign exchange market. Then you have other essays where you are discussing your new economic paradigm. You have indicators, and then the least possible is the objectives, because it was there last year. Right, not saying it's not going to be there, but then it is the least possible when you look at our 6 essays. So that is you answering question number 5. Right, so these are our most important dates for economics. Reminder, you are writing paper 1 on the 12th of November afternoon, and then paper 2 we are writing it on the 19th, also is an afternoon paper. Remember, you need to stay positive. Also, you need to also revise and stay ready for you to be able to get the mark that you have planned to get. Remember, you have a target. You need to set yourself a target. So for your final exam, grade 12, you still have a chance to pass, because for the entire year until the prelim, that it counts only 25% of your year, of the mark that you are going to get at the end of the year. So when you receive January your result, you know that the 75% is what you are working for now. So if you are ready, you use a strategy where you learn your concept from your textbook, from your whatever study guide that you are using. Then as soon as you understand the content, you go to the question paper, because you cannot finish the textbook now. You need to revise using the previous question papers. Then you'll be ready for your papers, both paper 1 and 2. Alright, so these are the identified essays on economic pursuit. I've already mentioned essays that are identified on the macroeconomics. Let's look at the ones that are identified in your economic pursuit. So you can expect: discuss in detail export promotion, discuss in detail arguments in favor of protectionism, discuss in detail the demand side approach in promoting growth and development in South Africa, and then discuss in detail the following South African development policies and strategic initiatives. These are the endeavors where you are discussing your SDI, IDZ, SEZ, and corridor. It's called discuss in detail growth and development policies and initiatives. Those are the endeavors. And then the other essay that we have, this one is for your GDP, your RDP, GIA, as GISAS, and then this one will be the endeavors, the South African initiatives. So they come into its initiatives here, and then this one is for regional development. You are discussing the endeavors, your SDI, IDZ, and SEZ, and corridors. Here we are discussing the RDP, GIA, as GISA, and then NSDS, NPD, those policies that we have from the one of 1994 until the NDP, that is of goal of 2030. So yes, for these two essays, we may confuse the two. You see here I mentioned endeavors, but then we look at what government policies. When you see policies, then we are going to discuss RDP, GIA, as GISAS. Do not confuse it like I did. And then this one is where you are discussing the endeavors, your SDI, IDZ, and SEZ. So how are we going to remember this, grade 12? When we're speaking of policies, remember what kind of policies do we have? We have GIA as a policy, RDP as a policy, you have GIPSA as a policy. Then you'll be able to know the headings that you're going to discuss. And then when they say for regional development, then we have SDI, IDZ, SEZ, and corridors, right? Then the other essay that we have here is discuss in detail the economic indicators, and then discuss in detail the social indicators. So these two indicators, they come from the same unit, which is your indicators, right? Indicators measuring the performance of the economy. So one of them here can come on question 6. But remember, grade 12, when you choose an essay question, you don't choose it before you choose it before you go to write. You don't choose it on the same day. You already come prepared. If you know macroeconomics or you know your economic pursuit, if you are fortunate that all the 13 essays you have mastered them, then when you get to the exam, what will lead you is the additional part. Right, we're going to look at the 1.3 questions. 1.3 is terminology, where you are going to read the sentence and you give a term. You have a tendency of leaving blank spaces when it comes to terminology. You need to attempt to answer this, because sometimes you don't have one answer. There are many possible answers. If you write something there, it may be correct. right? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer the 1.3 question. You're going to read the sentence and then you give a description for that. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at possible responses. The average number of years a person can expect to live based on the current mortality rate. So from birth, based on the mortality rate that we have, that is your life expectancy. Strategies and policies aimed at improving economic condition and reducing disparities in different regions. Reducing what? Inequalities. So the strategy and policies aimed at improving economic condition and reducing the inequality within regions. That is your regional development. The economic value of workers' experience and skills, including education, training, and health. Right? Human capital. Right, so when you're talking about workers, you're speaking of your human resources, your labor. So if the value of those workers, including their experience, education, training, and their health, it is human capital. They sometimes ask you how to make your labor more productive. Then you talk about training and education and skills. Those makes what? A labor more productive. Number 4, the process by which cities grow and societies become more urban in character, or we can describe this one as a situation where people are moving from the rural to the urban area, or even when the cities are expanding, it is urbanization. So your answer is urbanization. Right, let's move to your data respond question. Right, so for your data respond question, you have your 5 questions that you find there. Usually this one's course is economic pursuit. You find it on 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.2.1, 3.2.2, 3.2.3, like that, or 3.3, right? So you are going to get 10 minutes to respond to this data response, all the 5 questions. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, we are done writing. So let's look at our answers. Those that you are not sure of, then you ask the teacher. Right. What is the measure of income inequality? So income inequality, we've done this also in grade 11, where we spoke of the Lorenz curve, where we measure the equality line, where you see that the Gini coefficient is going to be used to calculate if there is equality or no equality. So your answer there is Gini coefficient. Remember, Gini coefficient, when it's close to 1, is close to total inequality, and when it's close to 0, it means that there is equality. Question number 2, what is the main objective of regional development policies? So there are so many objectives of the regional development policy. They want to close the gap, the disparities between the regions, where regions are more equal, so that we avoid a situation where people are moving from one region to one region and then it becomes overpopulated. So the main reason there is to reduce regional disparities and promote a balanced growth. So the reason we are having regional development, we want to promote a balanced growth. So what we see in the Northern Cape, if you are having more industrial opportunities there are more industries people can work. It should happen in Gauteng, it should happen in Northwest. So how do you close these gaps? Right, by closing this gap, they need to allocate resources correctly. Remember, when we did regional development, there was a point where we speak of benchmark. One of benchmark was allocation of resources. So they need to allocate to the more disadvantaged and the less privileged region first, so that they can also grow and then they can meet those other regions. Then that's how they can close the gaps. Same as closing the gap between the rich and those who don't have. You take through progressive taxes from those who have and you provide to those who do not have. That is closing what disparities that may be there. Right? What is sustainable development? If you've done so many question papers, we've done this, you know that this question is asked as what? Briefly describe sustainable development. When they say briefly describe sustainable development, it means that you can describe it in your own words. You do not have to define exactly as it is in the textbook. So sustainable development was spoken about in the regional development and also in your environmental sustainability, where we said to sustain something, it means it must stay longer. So here we're talking about sustainable development. It means that a development must benefit us right now. We must be able to enjoy from this development, but not compromising for the future generation. It must be sustainable. It must stay long. If we say we are putting industries through special economic zones in our regions, this industry must not last for 10 years and then after 10 years it shuts down, or 30 years. Then it shuts down. It means that the future generation are not going to benefit from the same development. Right? So you can describe it how you understand it, right? So let's look at the marking guideline. It says sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs, right? So can be described that way. If you have described it differently and you feel like it's right, then you may raise your hand, right? Let's move to question 4. Discuss the role of infrastructure development in regional development. When there is infrastructure development, what is the role of it in regional economic growth, right? So for us to have economic growth, we need infrastructure, right? So infrastructure development must be there. Remember, when there's infrastructure, businesses are encouraged to invest. And government, when they come up with this IDZ, SEZ, SDI, they are not going to be the suppliers, the producers. We can count the businesses that are owned by the parastatals, businesses that are owned by the government. There are not so many. You look at the business that we have, you go to monopolistic, go to perfect market. We have plenty of businesses. They are created by private sectors. So government need to provide infrastructure so that investors are encouraged to go produce in those regions. Once they are encouraged to produce in this region, they can bring regional economic growth. So that is the approach that you can take. But let's look at the marking guidelines. Infrastructure development such as building roads and utilities, facilities, transportation, improve the access to markets, all of which are crucial for stimulating regional economic growth and development. So if there is infrastructure development, this makes it easy to get access to this market. So it's easy to go to this business. It's easy for investors to also invest there because they will be having what a market share. People will be coming to buy, and then this will stimulate what the regional economic growth and development. The region is going to develop, right? Also here, if your answer it's not exactly the same, but then it is answering the role of infrastructure development to regional economic growth, then you'll be correct. Let's look at question number 5. How can regional development programs help reduce unemployment in economical disadvantaged area? How can the regional development programs, so we're having programs that are used, those endeavors, your SEZ whatsoever, how can that be used to reduce unemployment in the economical disadvantaged areas? The first thing, when there's regional development, there is production. Where there's production, we're going to need people to work, especially the labor-intensive industries. We're going to require people to come work. Then unemployment will decrease in those areas. Right, let's look at the marking guideline. Also, you're looking at your responses. If you are aligned with what we are asked, what you are asked is that how is regional development creating employment? Right. Regional development programs can reduce unemployment by creating job opportunities through infrastructure project. So the first thing for us to have regional development, there must be infrastructure. We must have roads, we must have communication lines, we must have energy. So they must put a source of energy, the electricity whatsoever that we are using, there must be, if they are using solar, there must be energy there, right? Supporting local businesses and providing skill training and education to enhance employability, meaning people to be more employable. So with regional development, it means local businesses are going to grow. There will be more of local businesses growing. Those small, medium enterprises will be growing, which will also result in people having certain skills, and then this will make them more employable. Remember, government cannot employ all the people, but government can make people to be employable by assisting in what? Providing skills and education. Right, we're going to move to the next data respond question. And you are going to be given again 10 minutes. You're going to spend your 10 minutes wisely to answer question number 1 to number 5. Then we look at your answers. Right, grade 12s, we are done writing. Our time is up. Let's look at the answers that you have. What is the percentage of consumer price index? So this one, you must go to the data that you have there, and then CPI is here. So this is our CPI. So our answer is given to us as 211%. Remember, your CPI can start from 100 and go up. Name and also the CPI is used to calculate what? Our inflation rate, right? And it also measures what? The standard of living. Name an example of economic indicator. We've done indicators, economic and social indicators. You have plenty of them. So let's look at what we have here. You have GDP, you have unemployment rate, there's inflation rate, there's production. There are few, there is your foreign trade, where there's terms of trade as an economic indicator. Those are few that you have. So any other one that is part of your essay, then it will be correct. Briefly describe the term economic indicator. So we have social indicator, we have economic indicator. The economic is checking the well-being of the country, and then the social is checking the well-being of the citizen. So economic indicator is a stat or a data point used to gauge the overall health and performance of the economy. So it's used to check the overall, or to measure the overall health and performance of an economy. That is your economic indicators. When you're looking at the GDP on production, when you're looking at unemployment rate, when you're looking at terms of trade, when you're looking at inflation rate, those are what? Economic indicators. Brief describe how inflation can impact economic indicator like GDP and standard of living. How inflation will affect GDP and the standard of living. So you look at the impact. Inflation prices are increasing. What happens to GDP? What happens to the standard of living? Right. Sometimes when prices are increasing, it may discourage producers to produce, then there will be less production, and GDP is what? It's a total production, right? And then the standard of living, when inflation is high, it means that our purchasing power is less, we cannot afford, then the standard of living will also decrease. Right. Inflation affects the nominal GDP, which is the raw economic output measured in a current price. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. As price rise, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. Let's make it very easy. Inflation will reduce our standard of living because prices are high. And it also can have an impact on the GDP because production may decrease. That is the easiest way to answer this. Discuss the implication of high poverty rate on country's economic and social indicator. What will happen if there is high poverty rate to economic and social indicator? High poverty rate, it means that there's no production and people's standard of living is decreasing. So high poverty rate, it means that the economic and social indicators will be affected negatively. High poverty can limit access to education, skills development, reducing productivity of the workforce. So this is affecting the social indicator, this one, right? Poor families often have limited access to quality healthcare and education. This is affecting what? The same indicator, meaning that if there is high poverty level, then our standard of living will be low. The economy also will deteriorate as people are not working. Remember, economic growth can lead to the economic development. So if there is high poverty, it means that there is no growth. So they can't have what we call development as well. Right, let's look at the next data response question. You are given 10 minutes again to respond to this one. Then we're looking at your marking guideline and the answers that you have. Your time will begin now. You start writing. Right, grade 12s, we are done writing. Thank you. Let's look at our marking guideline. Name the full name of NDP. Right, so you normally see NDP everywhere you go now because that is our goal of 2030. So that is your National Development Plan. Name one aim of the NDP. There's so many aims of NDP, like RDP, there are too many aims and other policy. So what we have here is to stimulate jobs and employment by 2030. This is the main aim. What is the industrial development? Describe industrial development. Refers to the process by which a country or region enhances its industrial sector through expansion, modernization, and diversification of its industries. Right? You can describe it as industrial development as when new businesses are being built or we are expanding the existing business. Will be perfect. If you've written that industrial development, it means that new businesses are built and we are expanding the existing business. You are still correct if you've written this one. Well done. It's correct. Explain one benefit of investing in infrastructure for regional development. So again, infrastructure and regional development is almost similar question. However, they ask it differently. Investing in infrastructure such as roads, bridges, railways, and ports significantly improves the transportation networks. So investing in infrastructure will definitely improve the regional development. Evaluate the role of government policy in promoting regional development. What does the government policy do in promoting regional development? There are so many policies that the government came up with to do what? To improve regional development. So when they say evaluate, you're going to say the success or not successful. Government can fund and prioritize infrastructure projects such as roads, railway, ports, and utilities, which are essential for facilitating trade, attracting businesses. So they can provide infrastructure that is the success of it. They are providing infrastructure so that businesses are able to produce. Investing in education, training programs can improve the skill levels of the local workforce. They become more employable. That will improve their region. So we look at the things that government does in order to do what? To ensure that there is a regional development. Now we're moving to the 8-mark questions. This one says, explain the industrial development zone regarding regional development. Remember the IDZ that was criticized. That's why we are now focusing more on SEZ. We are going to explain the IDZ for 8 marks. This question you find it on 3.4 because it's a remembering information. You are going to be given 5 minutes to write 4 full sentences. Then we look at your answers. Right, grade 12s, we are done writing. Let's look at our possible answers. IDZ, remember they are located by the harbor or the seaport. The seaport or the airport, right? So the international airport or the seaport, or you can say a harbor. An area set aside by government to encourage industrial investment and development. And remember, government set the area, but they do not produce. They give incentives like a duty-free import when you are producing there. Companies operating in the IDZ often benefit from reduced corporate tax, import duties, and other financial incentives. IDZs typically come with well-developed infrastructure such as roads, power, water, and telecommunication to support their industrial activities. IDZs stimulate local economics by creating jobs in manufacturing, services, and related sectors. So by writing these four sentences, you score yourself 8 marks. So what is happening here? You discuss what is IDZ, what is the benefit, what comes with the IDZ. Right, and the next 8-mark question, it says discuss how improvement in social indicators can influence regional development. How improvement in social indicators can influence regional development. Social indicators, remember, they are there to do what? To measure the well-being of the citizen, the people. That's why we look at health, we look at the standard of living, we look at the income, we look at the life expectancy, we look at education as social indicators. So how improvement in those indicators will influence regional development? This is a question that you find on your 3.5 because it's a higher order. It requires you to think. So you'll be given 8 minutes to complete to write responses for this one for 4 full sentences. Your time will start now. Right, grade 12, let's look at our marking guideline. So we're discussing how improvement in social indicators can influence regional development. Right, the first one, improved literacy rates enhance the skills level of workforce, making regions more attractive to business and investors. Regions with strong social indicators benefit from a more capable and educated labor force, which can attract high-quality industry and support sustainable growth. Remember, education is one of the social indicators. Investors are likely to prefer regions with strong social indicators due to their better living condition, which can drive regional development by increasing investment. You see in the areas when there is better standard of living around, there are more shops, people want to invest there, and then the moment it becomes overpopulated, people are putting there is informal settlement around, most businesses are shutting down and they are going to the urban areas. It's because the standard of living around will indicate to them what is their market share. Improvements in social indicator may not uniformly benefit all regions if development policies are not well targeted. So if you are not using the regional development policies well, then the social indicator may not really spill over to regional development. Right, so the next 8-mark question says, evaluate the role of the PPP in promoting regional development. Remember, this is a benchmark. The benchmark of regional development is that there must be public-private partnership. So we are evaluating how private and public work together in regional development. You'll be given 8 minutes to respond, then we look at your answers. Right, grade 12, thank you. Let's look at our possible answers. We're looking at the role of public-private partnership. Remember, the private are building the businesses, public is providing the infrastructure. Triple P can leverage private sector investment to complement public funding, allowing for larger scale projects. So when there is that infrastructure, it can create a situation where private sector want to invest more. Conflicts may arise if the private sector profit motives clash with the public sector developmental goals. There can be conflicts if businesses they are focusing more on their profit than the regional development. Private sector partners bring expertise and efficiency to projects, potentially leading to more effective and more innovative solutions. So the private sector, because they are trying to get more profit, they will be more efficient and innovative that will create regional development. Also, there's a risk sharing. When private and public they are working together, they are sharing the risk. Risk sharing between public and private sector can make large projects more viable and reduce the financial burden on the government. So now they are sharing the risk instead of the government doing everything. The private and the public share the risk, and then it's more likely to be successful because the private are profit driven. Right. So grade 12, we looked at the previous question paper. We only selected economic pursuit because we've revised so many times the macroeconomics for those who will be looking at economic pursuit. So those are the example questions from the previous question paper. Remember, as a pro tip, you need to go to your exam ready to write that 30-mark essay. It's not much, but then at least you are getting somewhere before you even respond to the additional part or anything else. You know all your essay from one main topic. This will prepare you for the section C. Use the 10 minutes reading time to select the best question to answer in section B. You go with a plan. Your plan being game plan, question 2 and 4. You get to the question paper, then you can make changes if you see that question 3 is more easier. But remember, if you are specializing, you are doing economics, we talk about specialization, which you need to know everything. However, if you understand main topic macroeconomics more, then you have a game plan to answer 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. Those are the questions you are going to be looking at. You come prepared. You come knowing macroeconomic secular flow. Everything in the examination guideline. If a person say what is system of national accounts, is there in your examination guideline. You must know it's the system that was used by the United Nations in doing our national aggregates, the GDP, GNP. So you must come ready. Business cycle, public sector, foreign exchange market, you must be ready for any question. Use those previous question papers. Also have access to the marking guideline as well, so that you can see if you are in the right track. Consult your teacher if you are not sure. This is the time where you need to be very prepared, and then you master paper 1. Right. All the best for paper 1 that you are writing on the 12th afternoon. Come ready, be prepared, have your own stationery. Thank you so much for joining in today. I will see you next time.